So, good morning members, my name's Amanda and today we're going to do some really basic work on Vrieseas, dividing them as well as potting them up and how we go about doing that at this time of year, which is our spring, coming into summer. So, let's find some Vrieseas. Not a hard thing on this property, there's certainly plenty of them. Okay, so this guy was out in the garden, excuse my voice. So this one was out in the garden and it's flowered in the past. So this is Mum here on the side, and this is her old flower spike here. So she's still got a lot of life in her, but she's producing, as she does flowered, after she's flowered, she produces pups in her axils, which are where the leaves grow. And so you can see they're quite high up on her. And we need to get to them. So the easiest method to do that is to remove the old skirt beneath her. So this is the skirt, this is what we call a skirt. These old leaves that droop down are the skirt of the plant. And so going around in a circle, following her growth pattern methodically, taking off the leaves so that we don't leave any debris behind, old leaf matter left behind on a Vriesea and then repotted will cause bacterial rot around the base of the plant, and it'll shorten its life, and it will also then cause further vase rot, and you won't get as many pups. And that goes the same for any of the plants that you're taking a skirt off. So whether that be a Vriesea or an Alcantaria, you were making sure they're nice and clean. So like I said, going around in circles, making our way slowly, gradually up to those pups is what we're aiming to do. If you tried to reach in and snap off one of those pups without removing all the leaves, potentially you're going to break it off early. And in that case, you're going to risk the pup surviving because you've broken its meristem too far up. None of us like to hear the snap, unfortunately, when we do it eagerly, getting too excited, wanting to get to the pups quickly. And so we reach in and think we can do it, and sadly they break. Some can still be saved. Okay, so we've made our way on this one, and this is a patterned leaf Vriesea, so it's not grown for its flower spikes, unlike this Vriesea, which we're going to play with later. So this one here has flower spikes that we wait all year, so a reasonably green plant, and then it produces some beautiful flowers. These patterned leaf Vrieseas instead have got gorgeous patterned foliage that lasts all year round, and then they colour up, they flower, and then they die and produce pups. Their flowers cut off. Alright, so we've made our way up to our pups, cleaned off all that skirt matter away, and we can see our pup now right here up close. It's ready to just be simply gently levered away. Okay, so I use bare hands normally, but I'm in gloves today. So what I do is simply slide my hands in and then lever them apart. By doing that, gently pushing away the mum, the pup will snap. As you might have heard that, there was a distinct snap. That was the sound of the pup breaking away, and then I can pull the pup off mum without causing any damage to either mum or to the pup. Now I'll get closer to see the pup. Give you a few descriptions. So this flat area here is called the heel of a pup. This is a really nice healthy pup, and it's old enough and it's at the right time of year. It's a growing period, so it can get planted straight away. So to plant them straight away, so this is part of the mum attached here, and it actually already has a few roots because it's quite a well advanced pup already. So what you need to do is remove some of these little lower leaves, because remembering we're going to be planting this guy beneath the surface of the soil, and holding him in place really well so that there isn't any movement, so that it doesn't damage any of those new leaves that are growing. So we peel it around again in the order of its growth, and it's very easy and they peel away. Okay, keeping the stem really clean around here, no dead leaf matter. Checking our pup to have a look at it to see if it's even. you know, because we want them to grow nicely. Now, it doesn't need these two little leaves on the bottom. Why put energy into growing those for this little baby? It doesn't need them. So we're going to take those off as well. Okay, so I've got a nice even shaped pup ready to go into its pot. While I'm here, I'll take its sibling off and do just a quick clean up as we go. So again, I've just got to take one more leaf off to get to its pup that's growing. There's still two more pups on this one. So what I'm just going to do is take off a couple more leaves so that I can get to those two. And then we'll tag them. So getting the tag out of the pot. So this one here is Hunter Cross with Red Chestnut. Okay, so I'm going to have to write tags out for these as I go. So I'll start with just an empty pot and I'll put my babies in as I go. So I'm just going to remove these final couple. I won't clean them up. I'll clean them up later on. Now it's got a pup quite high up in the leaf brack, and again the thought is just to dig in there and grab that one out and not take any more leaves off. My advice is not to do that. It's to take off those extra leaves, make the effort to get to the pup. It's better to get one good pup now than no further pups later on and damage this pup. So I'd rather get 3 from mum and maybe a couple more than 2 from mum. I'd rather 3. All right, so that's my third one. Now mum, like I said, has not finished. All right, so she still has some life in her. She's still got 4 leaf bracts around her that she can produce pups from. So I'm going to leave her tags in here, throw in a little bit of fertiliser. What I will do is just top dress her back up so that she's a little more stable in her pot. Bit of nutrients in that fertiliser Nutrimix that I use as well. There we are, she's done. We'll pop her in the mum section. Now we'll get to our pots. So we're going to pot up into these pots. These are got a lot of holes in them, if you can see through. Find a light spot there. So lots of holes. These are bromeliad pots. And these ones here are my 180s, I think these are. I think these are my 165s from Emery. Used to be much easier to read them when we had good eyes. So that's a 180, this is a 185 squat pot. Both of them have got all of the additional holes. These are bromeliad pots that I purchase and use. All right, potting mix behind, easy. So the potting mix that I use for Vriesea, or majority actually of my plants here, is a mix that I have made up at the processing place. And what they do is they mix builder sand, really fine amounts of pine fine bark in 10 mil little bits, so it's called soft fall or pine fine, and then I have a product called NutriBark, or their compost. They mix that up at their site for me and deliver me a couple of metres square every couple of weeks that I need it while I'm in my potting up phase. Rightio, back to my Vriesea. Here it is. So this is the one that we've cleaned up, ready to go. It's all nice and neat. I've got my potting mix in the pot ready to go. I've just cleaned up, made sure that I don't have any old leaf matter around him, and then it's into the pot, well pressed down and secured so that it's not moving around in the pot. And then that one's done, ready to go. Right, so it's 1 of 3. Now, like I said before, the most important part is their names. So they need their tags put in place, and then they're ready to go. So what I'll do at the moment is I'm just going to pop them aside so I don't get them confused with the next lot that I'm going to do before I write my tags. I'll take one of the tags out of Mum. She has 2. And just pop that in there with the pups so we don't get them mixed up. Now these are flowering Vrieseas. They clump up and form these nice little clumps, and they also need to be repotted at different times of the year. I want to establish larger clumps of these, so I'm not wanting to split them, but what I am wanting to do is remove the old mix that's full of fertilizer. It's a really sodden, heavy based mix that's not required for this particular kind. Pulling them out of the pot, we've had rain and they're really fluffy. The old leaves need a good clean up. So this time of year, everything gets a really good clean up. All the dead leaves get pulled away from any plants that we're leaving behind in their pots. That way we're reducing the bacterial load again when it comes to repotting them. These are going to go into a new mix that's got not a long, slow release fertilizer like the pellets. Instead, it's just going to go into the mix that I use that has the pine fines, the sand for drainage, because we're in La Nina weather event here at again for a second year in a row. So these plants are getting soaking wet and they're not, we're having a lot more problems with rot in southeast Queensland, New South Wales, and maybe even higher up in Queensland if they're getting the high enough rainfalls, although they're kind of used to it up there in comparison to us. We're used to drought conditions, and so we were putting coir fibre in our pots and we were doing all sorts of things to try to help our plants get through the dry periods. But instead what we're finding is huge amounts of rain, you know, a metre of rain in a day or two, averaging 500 mils in a night, and our plants are just not drying out, so they're suffering. So they need a really well drained mix, and so by adding the builder's sand, by keeping it open, by changing the mix reasonably regularly every couple of years at the moment while we're having these events, because our mixes are breaking down so rapidly that they're just turning to really offensive non-aerobatic type of non-aerobic mixes, so that the soil becomes sodden and you can smell it. Doesn't smell pleasant at all, and the plants are not responding well. They're starting to get yellow tips on their leaves, and they're getting a lot of rot. So we're going back to what we were doing before. Same mix, same pot, ensuring lots of well drained plants have all of this old earth potting mix taken off its base, so it's back to its roots. That way it doesn't have all this old rotting bark around them. They've all been cleaned of debris, all tidied up, and I'm just going to make sure, because I'm putting it higher in the pot than normal, because it would normally have some of its base, we're just going to pop that in its pot like that. We're just going to backfill around loosely, just around the top of the roots, to secure it all in place, just to ensure she don't move around. This one's going back in the garden with lots of others. These are outdoor ones that I use in my shaded areas. This is called Sunburst, and that will do much better now in that condition. They're stolon first, so they do grow out on their stolons. You can cut them and remove them and plant them that way as well. Alright, so that's how we go about dividing, splitting and potting some of our Vriesas, making sure that we keep our tips around the bases really clean after we remove our leaf matter. You can leave these babies in pots, in dry pots, for months, especially at this time of year, in the shade for several months without actually potting them up. Now I've actually done that. I'm just going to relieve this one leaf. I actually did that with this little guy. I took it off mum about 6 weeks ago, and then things got a little bit hectic here, and so it's been sitting in that pot, which is just a pot with nothing in the bottom, no mix, no anything else. And you will see that after with just the rainfall we've been having, it's already developed its own roots. So it is more than ready. This is a hieroglyphic cross with a Dillon's Black Beauty. It's ready to be potted up into its mix now as well, and it will benefit now this time of year. So I've trimmed its leaves off, it's ready to go into a pot and be potted up. That's how we go about doing our Vriesas. Okay, good luck with everything, everybody. Hope you've got some useful tips from that. If you are going to do any feeding of the Vriesas, a slow release Vriesea food would be something ideal, like an Osmocote for flowering or fruiting plants. So the purple tub of Power Feed is another one, or a hot pink one, again for vegetables or flowering plants. Remembering our Vriesas, although you don't often see the flowers on them, they are a flowering variety, and so they will appreciate food that's higher in the potassium and the nitrogen as well. Okay, happy gardening. Thanks. Bye now.